you're anything like me as an entrepreneur, then you know you are wildly unemployable and can't imagine ever having a job again. And that's why I'm really excited for today's guest. He's someone who just lives and breathes the unemployable life. And he's got some great insights for us today on building a business that you love. So I'm Melanie Benson here, America's leading small business optimizer. And this weekly podcast series is all about how to optimize your life, how to optimize your business so that you can really start to have higher levels of profits and, in my opinion, have an extraordinary lifestyle in the process. So let me introduce a really fun guest today, someone I had the honor to be on his show recently, Michael O'Neill, who's host of the Solopreneur Hour and founder of Solo Lab, where he helps other unemployable people of the world find the correct path to business success on their own terms. I love that because I think that's what it's all about. So, hey, Michael, glad to have you here today. Glad to have the powerful reminder in the background that we are unemployable.
Indeed. It is a pleasure to have me here. Yeah, so this is a little shirt I made. I did a presentation in Vegas in January, and we wanted to have a little swag to give away. And so I created this one shirt that just had my logo on it, and it had my listeners are called soloists because the show is called the Solopreneur Hour. And the tagline of the show is job security for the unemployable. So I made this shirt that said, it was like hashtag soloist on the front and then had the logo in the back. And as I'm riding my bike, and I'd already submitted to the t-shirt place, I was like, that shirt stinks. Why did I even submit that shirt? So I called them back. I went to a Starbucks. I redesigned it because I had this idea of this sort of I am unemployable thing. And then they were fortunately able to redesign it. Excuse me. And I wore it and couldn't get through the casino. It took me like 10 minutes to get through the casino because everybody stopped me. They were like, oh my God, I love the shirt. So it was the first really viral thing that I'd ever made. So now it's just an icon of this solidarity we have as unemployable people.
And it's so viral that you have fans who are giving you gifts with it on it, right? Didn't you just show me you have like a cool little frisbee? Do you actually use it?
Somebody sent me a little Solopreneur Hour frisbee the other day, which is cool.
So are you going to like have the collection of mugs and all, all the other
I
paraphernalia?
don't know. If they send me stuff, that would be cool.
Okay, so note to everyone, Michael likes paraphernalia with I am unemployable on it.
Or whatever. I like any paraphernalia. I've bought all kinds of cool stuff. So one of my listeners, who's a brilliant knife, like literally one of the best handmade knife makers in the world, sent me this the other day, which is this really cool knife. And I don't know if you can. I don't know if the camera will catch it. Yeah. But look at the detail in the grain. Do you see how
it has
layers?
Yes.
Isn't that cool? He literally hand forges these. He makes every little bit of this thing, and it's just gorgeous. He does them in Alaska. So, yeah, I love swag.
I know. I have like a little collection of swag too. It's too far away, but it's one year somebody sent one of those little Hollywood stars with my name on it.
Oh, nice.
The only bummer was they didn't. I had no idea who it was from, so I never knew who to thank.
I got some candies the other day that I didn't know who they were from.
I was like, oh my God, I want to thank you. I even sent something on my e-zine, like whoever sent this, thank you.
On last episode, I told anybody because I'm always begging for iTunes reviews, you know, and so every time anybody leaves me a review now on iTunes for the show, I just ask them to have their Twitter handle in the review so that I can thank them on Twitter because otherwise there's no way to respond to anybody that leaves your review on iTunes, which is a drag.
That's great.
Everybody's anonymous.
I love that idea. Yeah, because I couldn't figure out who was reviewing me on Twitter. I didn't know who was what. So that is a great idea. See, we've already learned so many cool things.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
So, Michael, speaking of making the big bucks, let's talk a little bit about why solopreneur and why build a podcast in the first place. What was the drive for you for that?
I had done I was the producer of another show for almost 2 years before I launched mine. And the guy who was the host of the show was like not really a life coach, but kind of a personal development dude. And I saw how quickly the brand grew globally. All of a sudden, we were in 180 countries and hundreds of thousands of downloads. And so I I knew it was good from a business model standpoint. I never had aspirations of having my own show, really. It wasn't a thing that I'm a drummer. I've been a professional drummer most of my life. And by default, drummers are sort of support characters, you know? We're hiding behind metal and wood, and we're not like, we don't have aspirations of being in the spotlight. So I never even really thought of having my own show. And then our host was in Africa, climbing Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
And we prided ourselves on publishing the show from all over the world. We were in Belize. We were like, he was all over the place, and we still managed to get the shows out on time. And this time, he was off the grid. We had planned on doing shows from there. We thought that we'd be able to pull it off, but he was completely gone for about 2 weeks. So I had to scramble, and I got a couple of guest hosts to come in, but there was a day that we didn't have a host, and I was like, well, I guess I'm going to have to do it. So I recorded a show, and it was a training that I had done. I'd been teaching network marketers how to use social media to grow their business for the last like 3 years, and because they all do it wrong. It's awful. But I had such great feedback on that, and I also found the medium to be really easy for me. It was like kind of like, oh, all right, I guess I can do this. It was one of those, it was like a wax on, wax off kind of thing, where I think I'd been exposed to it my whole life. And I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy, so I spend a lot of time watching.
Totally surprising.
Yeah, right.
Not.
But it's mostly what I consume is stand-up, and I've always loved to watch it from the really technical side, like as a performer or as a speaker versus just someone who says jokes. I love that how they can take it, the energy of a crowd, and move them through different kinds of energy, and then get them to a point. And when you consider what a good stand-up does, which is they set a premise first. Like Chris Rock, you've heard a million times, be like, women can't go down in lifestyle. They can't go down in lifestyle. And then he hits it from 7 different angles, and it's funny, but he keeps reinforcing that they can't go down in lifestyle premise. It's the same exact thing that any good speaker does, which is sets the stage for why the audience is about to learn what he's about to teach them, or she is about to teach them. So once that premise is set, anything you teach them around that subject, they're going to want to learn, and it's going to be relevant to them. So it's the same exact thing, just translated. So knowing that, and knowing that was sort of the piece for me that clicked, since I've taught so many different things in my life. I've taught race car driving and snowboarding and mountain biking, and teaching them to people that don't necessarily have those kinds of skills, like, you know, that don't innately have that set of skills, and you really have to start from dead scratch. That's the part that's really challenging for people. So once I realized that that's what a podcast could be, then it became very easy for me to say, okay, I should do this. So I had a lunch with a guy named Pat Flynn, who runs a website called smartpassiveincome.com, and who's great for an online business resource and mentor, especially if you're just getting into it. And we sat and just kind of hung out as dudes for a couple hours, and we talked about life and work and girls and all the stuff that you dudes talk about. And we left there, and he said, man, I never get a chance to do that. I'm always having to talk about like specific things in work. And I thought, that would be kind of a cool idea for a show, which is to bring these successful solopreneurs on and almost talk about everything but what they're known for.
Yeah, so kind of like get to know the person behind the business.
Yeah, because it makes people more relatable at that point. And if I realized a few years ago that I was de facto unemployable. And to be unemployable means that you know too much. You know too much about the other side. You've read too many of the books. You've seen too many entrepreneurs become successful in your little niche. You know, you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all that stuff, and you're clocking into the working for like this middle manager that doesn't have anywhere near the skill set or the knowledge that you do. And once that happens, you're dead. There's no way you can do that forever. So that's what unemployable means to me. And I've been unemployable, and I said, wouldn't it be cool to focus on that part of someone's life when they discovered they were unemployable, and then what they did to become successful? And that's sort of how the show started.
And I love this because, you know, I've said for years that the reason why I knew I had to start my own business is I was totally unemployable. Like, I think we talked about this before. I would leap from one job inside the Fortune 500 company I worked for after another, and every 18 months I was kind of like getting a new job. And, you know, it was making me think, you know, your business is Solo Lab. And I know you help people
Yeah,
learn
one of
how
them.
to build a business on their own terms, but what do you think is the biggest challenge people face when they're maybe in a corporation, if somebody's still hooked into something, or it could be a business you built that you don't even like and it's not really success on your own terms. What do you think is the biggest challenge they face when they're looking at you or me or someone who's, really starting to make this work? Like, what do they want? What is the challenge that's in the way of it?
It's the fear of we've been indoctrinated into a certain type of life. I don't not even lifestyle, but we go to school, we get a degree, we get a job, we get a 401k, we have a couple kids. You've got the white picket fence, and people are really that's reinforced for years and years and years. And when someone is doing something differently, excuse me, doing something differently, there's a lot of fear around it because they don't. Everyone thinks you're crazy because you aren't going to get the super stable, steady job and the 401k and all that kind of thing. And so when that happens, the only way to get over that fear is knowledge. And I have 6 books that I recommend to everybody. I call them the Sexy Six on my show. And when they read those, they have the same front door they've looked out for years and years, but the landscape is completely different once they've read them. And it changes how they go about life and how they view their current job and how they view their future. So that to me it's the fear-based thing that stops people.
Yeah, I think you're right. The fear of the unknown, or the fear of like maybe it not working, the fear of like all the things that might have to change. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I can never imagine going back. All somebody has to do is say, "Hey, if it doesn't work out, you can go back and get a job." I'm like, "Nope, not gonna happen. Never
You're
going
like, I
back."
can't. There's no, I think in my case, I had no safety net. So that I had no choice. It was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this thing work no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, like if somebody was really in that fear right now, Michael, and they know they really, really want it. And I've had clients like this, by the way, that they're still kind of anchored in a full-time gig somewhere or something that pays all the bills that's not their love, and they really want to go for it. What's something like a piece of advice that you would give them to say, maybe have that courage or the confidence to go for it?
Well, I think that there's steps to becoming a successful, in my case, solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever. And the very first step is just the willingness to go through the pain. You have to kind of go, okay, I'm going to do this, and understand that it's you starting at the bottom of a fairly steep mountain. The good news is that you can definitely get there. You don't know how, and the how is none of your business, as we like to say. You know, when people have that kind of fear, like if I'm sitting across from them, I say, okay, right over there across the street on that second story building, there's a bag that has $100,000 in cash in it. You have 15 minutes. Go. Do you get the cash? Of course. The answer is always yes. They always get the cash. They don't know how they're going to get it, but they're going to get it.
Right.
So first you have to discover that if that's the thing that you want, well, how are you going to do it? The second thing is you have to immerse yourself in that knowledge. My 6 books, read these 6 books. It'll change everything. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Cash Flow Quadrant, also by Robert Kiyosaki's book number 2. You have to read them in order.
Mm-hmm.
Book number 3 is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Book number 4 is the book that if I interviewed 500 people, millionaires in a room, and I said, what's one of the most influential books you've ever read? Most hands would be raised to this one, which is The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. Number 5 is Strengths Finder 2.0 by Tom Rath.
Mm-hmm.
And the 6th one, if you're going to do anything online, and you are, is Crush It by Gary Vaynerchuk. Those are the sexy 6. And I won't coach anybody that doesn't read them first. Like, I just won't do it because we're not going to be on the same wavelength in terms of understanding what monthly cash flow is and what that means, and how daunting it is when you look at, oh, I need to make $140,000 a year, and you go, you can break that down into $70 a day or whatever it is, So I think that's the first steps is to read. The second thing is to completely immerse yourself in that industry. Identify the people in that industry that are doing and living the life that you want to live, and learn everything about them. Get on their mailing lists, read their content, start making a decision on what it is you're going to do. And I believe that people can make a six-figure income by teaching people how to use Excel spreadsheets. I think you can teach anybody anything. And the sort of the coaching piece, one great piece of advice is you don't have to be the best in the world at anything. You just have to be better than the people you're coaching. Right?
Well
So
said.
and that's
Yeah.
that. It doesn't matter. My other favorite, my other favorite one is if you wait till the last minute, it only takes a minute. Um,
Exactly.
and if they give you some advice, reward them with knives and T-shirts and frisbees. No, reward them with. Did we break up?
Yeah, it's frozen again.
Okay,
There we go. All right, we'll do another one of those.
cool. Do this again.
All right, go back to your reward them. Oh, yeah, you're really fuzzy again. Are you on Wi-Fi or are you on hardline?
I'm only on Wi-Fi because I don't have the other option.
Okay. Yeah,
I can't be on hardline. This
sometimes.
computer actually doesn't have an Ethernet port. Which
Oh,
is
it doesn't. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
All right, now we're back on. Okay. So.
I should actually get a little. I should get a little dongle. I should do that actually.
Oh, that's a good plan.
Anyway,
All right, go back to where you were.
so the other thing is to go to events, whatever events are in your specific niche. Go there and meet the people that are speaking and that are training, because once you've immersed yourself in it, you start surrounding yourself with the most successful people. You know, we're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So don't be toxic. Don't surround yourself with those people that aren't serving you, and that includes family members, and that includes spouses, and that includes yourself, because that 5th person is you. It's that dialogue we have in our heads that we can't do this, or we're not going to be good at it, or whatever. If you can't get that imposter out of your brain so you can move on to be successful, then you're never gonna level up, as we say.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I love that because, I think especially in the beginning, it feels like there's so much you have to learn. You're running the business, you might be learning a new craft and all these
Yeah.
pieces and parts, and it can get really, you kind of mind meld yourself a little bit into one of two tracks. Fake it till you make it and just do it. Or it's like, oh my God, what if people find out I don't know what I'm doing? And that second track is going to derail you because, it undermines the power force you use when you talk to people and you're engaging them. So I see that happen a lot.
Well, and also, there's a lot of people that are in the business of consuming. So they buy every single course, they buy every single program. They're like learning, but they never actually do anything. So you have to actually take action to make anything work.
Totally true.
You got to just do it. Right before I launched my show, I just gotten hit by a car.
Wow.
13 days before I launched my show, and I was legitimately messed up. I had a broken collarbone. I was covered in road rash. It was just really bad. But I said, you know what? I made a promise. I'm going to launch the show in August. I'm going to do it, and I did. And I decidedly didn't want to make any excuses, and I was like, I'm going to launch the show, and I'm so glad I did when I did. It's another part of the story.
That's a great story. I didn't hear that before. I love knowing that. It's,
No fun.
and so it kind of eliminates a lot of excuses people use. If they know you started when you were probably wrapped up in a million bandages and bruised up
Yeah, it was a
everywhere.
mess. Yeah, it was a mess.
Did you have to drink a lot to get through it?
I
lot of
couldn't
painkillers?
really. I couldn't because the Vicodin was it upset my stomach.
Oh, yeah.
So
Gotta
it
love
was,
Vicodin.
Yeah, it was not good. I got off of that as quickly as I could. I don't like those. I pretty much had a steady diet of Advil for a few months. It was rough. Anyway, good times.
Back to challenges. So,
Back to
that
bringing
would
the
be a
show to
challenge.
complete halt.
Exactly.
Please, tell me more about the orphaned kid that you dropped off a bridge.
Exactly. Let's find out about all the black holes in your
Talk
childhood.
more about drowned puppies.
Well, speaking of challenges, what would you say has been one of the biggest challenges you face? Because, it's not all roses and peaches and ice cream along the way. And, I personally, I think challenges kind of will make you stronger or they will break you. And then when you let them make you stronger, you're just a better business owner. But a lot of people get stuck in them. What would you say has been one of your big ones?
Mine is I think a good challenge in that the show has had a fair bit of initial success, and just time management is not my strong suit. And just, and I'm also I'm one of those entrepreneurs that can do everything. I was a web guy for 18 years and a branding and design expert, and I know a lot about music production and video stuff, and I literally can do all of it, but I shouldn't be barely doing any of it. So me and time management are trying to get along. We're fighting a little bit right now. And getting emails from, a lot of correspondence from listeners and things like that, and just being able to respond and be present and be appreciative of every single person, that's been a little bit of a challenge because yesterday I was away from my computer the entire day because I was on coaching calls, and I had 631 messages today, and it was like, ugh.
Wow.
It's just getting through all of that and sorting, which is a number one reason why everyone should have a virtual assistant, and I don't yet.
I can hook you up, my friend. I can hook you up.
I know. I have numbers of people that can hook me up. I just haven't actually done it, and I need to.
Yeah. Well, to me, that's like the magic formula. That was what made the difference between struggling to make a minimal amount of money and be able to really leap into high 6 and 7 figures was, expanding that bandwidth makes such a big difference. And you shall know that too soon.
Yes. No, I know it. And the other thing is, to answer your previous question, it just dawned on me, coaching is the number one thing that somebody can do.
Oh.
If somebody really wants to get to that next level, get
Fast.
a coach.
Yeah.
Get into a mastermind group or get into a private coaching scenario. Expect to spend $100 to $500 to however much you can afford per month on it, and there's nothing that will move the needle faster than that, because you will literally have someone bringing you through the process.
I like it.
So, yeah.
Good.
That was my number one piece of advice to people in 2014 is to get a coach or join a mastermind.
Yeah, and you know what? I think I saw you write something about that too, or I saw something on your blog about it. I am the same way. Every major leap I've ever taken was because a coach or a mentor was challenging me to think more strategically or think differently. And I believe that the way you think defines your success. That's why we have a program here called Inner Mastery for Peak Performance, because most people are thinking absolutely the opposite of the way they need to be thinking in order to grow and to rise above the challenges they're facing.
Well, and when you think about it, try to think of just one. Give me one professional athlete that doesn't have a coach. Just try to think of one.
Yeah. Well, I don't know very many of them, but
but you can't in any sport. There's no
especially the big
sport.
name ones that everybody would know, because that's what propels them forward.
So it's not like you're too good to ever have a coach. It's just that, Andre Agassi could beat his tennis coach anytime he wanted to, but he was still a fantastic coach. So the point of it is to be part of a community where everybody is moving forward. And you mentioned Solo Lab before. That's my community of listeners that I said, hey, if anybody out there in listener land wants to actually build a thing and move forward, you can link arms with us and do this. And so I created a little spot for them to do that. And I think a lot of people that are in this space, this coaching or podcasting or whatever space, have those kinds of opportunities for people to join up if they're good coaches. Not everyone's a good coach. People could be really good at what they do, but not great at coaching it.
Do you know the distinction between a coach and a mentor?
No, but I know the distinction between a philanthropist and an activist, but you tell me yours first.
Okay, we'll cover them both. So the difference between a coach and a mentor, I learned this a long time ago because I'm actually both. I was trained as a coach, but a coach is somebody who is trained to ask questions and elicit from you what it is you want to achieve and help you get it. A mentor is somebody who knows how to excel at the process that you want to excel in and has done it before and can show you how to do what they did. Now, when you have both, it's really powerful because you've got somebody who knows how to do both, and you need both at different times. But if you hire a mentor hoping for a coach, you will always be disappointed and the reverse. So, you're like, hey, just teach me how
Interesting.
to build a 7-figure speaking business, and you're hiring a coach who's just going to ask you a ton of questions. You'll be really frustrated. So you need
Wow.
someone who's done both, or who can integrate both, and that's when you get the best results.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that
Now,
distinction.
what's the difference between a philanthropist and an activist?
An activist is a philanthropist with no money.
That's awesome.
One of my millionaire philanthropic friends said that. I was like, that's a great.
That is great. I love it. Okay, that's good. So, here's something else I want to know about you. Especially now that you brought up coaching and everything, because I think coaches can be a real pivotal turning point in the
Yeah.
trajectory of someone's business success. What would be one that you say, like there was a turning point in your life, or maybe a real pivotal moment where you kind of had that, oh crap, I should have had a V8, and now all of a sudden everything's better.
Mine's more personal than business in that respect because I had a in 2007 I lost both my parents, and
Oh
it was a
yeah.
I had a really it's a really really it's literally about a 23-minute story. So I'm not going to go into it, but I was sitting on the couch of a guy that was, I guess he would be a mentor. He would be a guy that and at the time I was broke and heartbroken and
Hmm.
it was awful. And this was 2008. And I was sitting on this guy's couch and he said, and I really needed help. Like I really needed a job or I needed somebody. I was trying to save my house and it was just a mess. And he said, Michael, I really want to help you, but you've had so much chaos in your life for the last 4 years that you haven't even had a chance to mourn. And it was like a lightning bolt that it dawned on me. Oh, my dad died. And then, oh yeah, my mom died because they were 7 months apart.
Ugh.
And it was awful. And I lost it, but at the same time, it triggered something that for me was like I always wanted to take my parents to Europe because my dad was the kind of guy that would like drive across country in a Winnebago but wouldn't jump on a flight to Paris for 6 hours.
Right.
And we're from Ireland originally, Michael O'Neill, and I always wanted to surprise them as as a successful adult with a trip to Europe and Ireland and all this stuff. And I couldn't do it, but on this guy's couch at that moment, I said, I'm going to do it anyway. So I got a little Italian Parmesan cheese shaker, and I put their ashes in it, and I went to Europe for 4 months, and I spread them everywhere I wanted to
Aw.
spread them. So they're on the beaches of Normandy, they're in the Sistine Chapel, and like sometimes I had to go a little Shawshank Redemption with it because you're not allowed to spread ashes anywhere like that. So, but it was a pivotal decision for me to like say, wait a second, I have to recover from this before I do anything else. There's no way I can just like pretend like this didn't happen. This is one of life's biggest moments.
Hmm.
And so I have to really, and that was really his wisdom recognizing that because he could have put me in a job where I could have made $150,000 a year like that.
Hmm.
It was, I mean, he had infrastructure money. Um, and so Howard Hughesy kind of money, right? And so I at the time was a little irked about it, but looking back, it was the best piece of advice that I'd ever gotten, and that was really a pivotal thing. So taking the time to like really understand, and not really stop and smell the roses as much, but really appreciate a crossroads when you're at the crossroads,
Hmm.
I think is very difficult. And I was very fortunate to recognize that one.
You know what I'm hearing, and again, this is a big thing I think in a lot of people's lives is when you have an energy leak, and it could be something feeling incomplete, it can be something that you haven't finished an emotional cycle with, it can be things that just need to get done, and they're draining you, or unhealed situations in your life. They will drain your focus and keep you from being able to lead properly. And I think they actually undermine there. It's almost like there's this constant undercurrent that's trying to pull you down. So it sounds like you gave yourself time to really complete something and get the time instead of trying to grab yourself up while you're healing. Just like, no, take the time, complete this part of my journey, and then start fresh.
Yeah, and even that was a microcosm of entrepreneurship, which is I didn't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how I was going to do it. I had no idea where I was going to go. I had one friend that said, "Hey, you can crash with us. You can use in Brussels. You can crash with us as your home base if you want to come." And I said, "Okay." I would just go to a new country And so I did all these little micro trips for a couple of weeks at a time. And then I came back, and when I landed in Washington, D.C. on my connecting flight, I had $14. And not like I better go hit the ATM, but that was it. It was like, all right, I had 14 bucks, and now then what happens? You know? But it was just like being an entrepreneur. It's being able to step into the unknown and not have a lot of fear about it, you know? So you just kind of got to just do it, I think.
Have you ever met Adam Urbanski?
No.
Oh, you guys have a similar story.
Oh, wow.
Not in that sense, but he has a story about coming to the U.S. with $10 in his pocket, and you have
wow.
the I'm going to go on this journey with $14 in my pocket. So
Yeah.
apparently
Well,
I have to connect you
14.
too.
Yeah. I came back with 14. It was just
Okay,
start over.
got it.
That was 2009, so it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, well, that's huge, and
It still feels very fresh to me.
well, it will too. It's
Yeah.
part of healing, right?
Yeah. And that's a weird thing they don't tell you when you lose your parents, is especially mom. I think there's something about the mom connection is it's a little bittersweet when something great happens because you can't make the phone call.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a very sort of that's not in the manual. The phone call part's not in the manual.
Mm-hmm.
The life manual.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's learning. It's kind of have to adjust and find a different way to get those accolades. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it's okay. I mean, it's fine. It's
You can
part of the
call me
lifestyle.
Michael. You can
I
call
appreciate
me and
that.
tell me. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And I'll go, woohoo!
Awesome.
Way to go, Michael.
See? High five.
Nice.
Cross country high five.
Exactly. But you're in LA, aren't you?
San Diego.
Oh, okay. Well, we're not across the country, just across the city.
Yeah. You're San Diego?
LA?
You're LA.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing this in person?
I don't know. God, we have got to coordinate our schedules better.
Seriously.
We're going to
Just
work
a
on
camera.
this. Next one in
Hey.
person. Okay.
You're a high-tech version of yourself. Anyway, go on.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Do you have a favorite mantra or quote that you use to help you stay inspired when you maybe feel a little off track?
God, I do. I should remember it off the top of my head. Well, yeah. I don't know the recipe for success, but the recipe for failure is trying to please everybody at the same time.
Good one.
By Bill
That was that has been my nemesis. Trying to make too many people happy. So
Yeah.
I had to learn that one the hard way. You're not going to make everybody happy. Ever, ever, ever. As a matter of fact, you start making these people happy, you're going to make these people unhappy.
I think embracing the who you are in that respect, like anybody that knows me knows that I'm like, look, squirrel, I'm like ADD all over the place. But that also really serves me in my business and on the show and in life. That sort of all over the place and somehow my brain being able to connect really disparate dots is a way for me to, I think, be interesting on a show or in person. And that's only because my brain works the way it does. I would never want to, medicate that out of my system. I would rather hire somebody as a VA that's super organized and can stay focused than me to tune out this part that I think is really serving me. And I think a lot of really successful entrepreneurs have that same sort of, the right kind of ADD, I think.
Mm-hmm. So would you say you're more of a starter than a finisher in the realm of your strengths?
Yeah, absolutely. An idea person. Yeah. Starter and motivator.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a doer, though. I mean, I commit. I'm very committed to my show and to its growth and its brand positioning
Mm-hmm.
and what it's doing, I think. To people.
Starters have to have a lot of like energy that moves inside of whatever they're doing is, or they get bored.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have different guests all the time probably helps.
Have you ever done Strengths Finder?
I have.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it was, but I have them all.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find mine. But one of them was futuristic,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just that being able to identify and think of what is around the corner and be able to really see it clearly.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that when I was flipping houses in 2006 or whatever it was, I could walk into an awful house and totally see the finished product before, and then I would go do it. I would get hand tools and make it happen, as to the best of my ability. And if I couldn't do it, then I would get somebody else to do it. So that's, I think, an ideation was another one, futuristic and ideation. So having those ideas, and not everybody has that.
I don't.
I'm
a catalyst.
Okay.
I am a activator of things that exist.
Activator's another one.
Yeah.
That I had.
Yeah. So we share that one.
Yeah, activator is one. So yeah, I just opened it. I'll tell you what my 5 are.
Okay.
It's
make me look up
activator, achiever, ideation, futuristic, and command. Those are, and I can't argue with any of them.
I can see that.
Yeah, those are all pretty much what I am. That's what I do.
Okay.
That's kind of the deal.
Well, I'm kind of curious too, if someone listening in too, if you know what your strengths finders are, pop them in the blog here. It'd be a fun dialogue to see like what other strengths people are coming to the table with, and what are the ones you're using the most in your venture right now, and which ones do you want to use more of? There's something really magical about being able to use more of what I call your genius factors in your business. And if you're not using them enough, that's where burnout and stress comes from. At least that was what I learned.
I missed out the last part. Sorry, Melanie.
Oh, yeah. Did we freeze up again? I said that when you use your genius factors, I think it eliminates stress and burnout. And it makes you more productive because you can't wait to do the things that are in your genius.
Well, don't ignore those either. There's something sort of when you go through like a strengths finder test and you really learn what it is you do well, don't ignore those and try to do other things. This guy that makes these knives keeps trying to take pictures of his knives and tries to make these little ads in Photoshop. I'm like, Thomas, stop it. That's not what you do. You are brilliant at doing this. Keep doing this. Let a great designer show you how beautiful your knife can be on a screen. You're never going to get there. Like, it's not going to be. Stop wasting your time on trying to learn Photoshop well enough to make your knife look as good as it could by paying someone $5 an hour in the Philippines that's a full-time designer. Just don't do that. It's like, so that's the part as a coach that we've got to keep these people focused on the things that they really do well, which in my case are my strengths. I focus on those 5 things at all times, and that's what I do. And if I'm not, I happily recognize the things I'm not good at.
Love it. Love it. So what's next for Michael? You got something exciting coming up?
In a yearly sense. So what are you asking me?
Just something on the horizon that is getting ready to come out. Maybe one of your ideas that you're birthing right now.
Yeah, I have a couple things. I'm really pretty laser focused on the show. I just got a first sort of big time sponsor in GoDaddy to sponsor the show.
Woohoo!
It was cool. I have 3 more slots, so I really want to fill those other 3 slots. I have 1 more monthly coaching slot that I'm trying to fill. And if I do all of those things, then I've legitimately built a 6-figure podcast in 6 months. And that's like a cool, I can run with that for a while.
Yeah.
The other piece is I'm going to launch an advanced podcasting course where I show people the techie stuff that we were going over before, the real microphones and things like that I think is necessary to really level up and be to really be a player in this arena.
Yeah.
Because now podcasters aren't like, hey, come listen to my little show recording in my basement. You're now competing against Howard Stern and Jon Stewart and Charlie Rose and some of the best interviewers in the world, because now podcasts are being heard in almost all the 2014 major cars. So you're getting these people that have never heard one before, and they're flipping over to your janky podcast with your little headset microphone, and it sounds awful. And they go, oh, this is what podcasting is? Not interested. And I think that hurts the whole industry. So I want to really level up everybody that's trying to do a podcast well and learn how to do a really professional, good interview and have their sound be super pro and how to do, how to make it a professional. So you're now not a podcaster, but you're a broadcaster.
I love it. And again, I think it's good to get started and just not let little things get in the way. But I
Yeah.
think there's a certain point where you really have to be masterful and you have to choose excellence. And not knowing what tools you need can stand in the way. So I love that you're going to do that. I didn't
Yeah.
know about half the technology. You just gave me three things before we even got on today. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, okay.
Well, I love the idea of taking imperfect action. I mean, I don't mind that at all. But
Hmm.
if you want to do a podcast for a business,
Hmm.
you really have to have it nailed. Like you
Yeah,
have to nail your brand, you have to nail the audio, you have to nail your strategy
totally
for those
agree.
first critical 8 weeks of new and noteworthy. Because if you miss that, you've got a uphill battle.
Yep, yep. Another thing I learned after the fact, but hey, what are you going
Whoops.
to do?
See,
Oh,
that's all right.
that's why we need you.
That's right. I can get people more downloads. That's true.
Exactly. We're gonna have
That's
to
how we
talk.
roll. All right, I know a guy.
It's all right. Good, good. I know him too now. That's great.
Sweet.
So, Michael, thanks for coming on today. Let's remind everybody where they can find you.
It's I've made it easy because most people in the world can't spell preneur. It's a hard word.
Yeah, it is really
So
tough.
I've shortened it all to solohour.com. If you go to solohour.com or Solo Hour on Twitter, Solo Hour on Instagram, facebook.com/solohour. So they can find me at any of those spots.
Yeah, and I have to say, in addition to Small Business Optimizer, I love, love, love Michael's podcast. It's so fun. It's totally different than what we're doing here. And I have got more comments from the people that watched me or heard me on your show than
Oh,
any
cool.
other podcast I have done in the
Oh,
last
that's
2 years.
good.
Yeah, it
That's
was
really
so
awesome.
fun. I was like, oh, I love this. So
My peeps are good. They have like a
you
good.
got good peeps. I got
Yeah.
good peeps. You got good peeps. We'll put them together.
Yeah,
We'll
seriously.
have all kinds of fun.
I like it. Thank you so much, Melanie. I
All
really appreciate
right, you got it. And we'll see you all next week. Bye bye.
it. See you later.